The operator shall require proof of age of majority prior to matters to do with registration of every player. And away from that, the gaming regulatory authority shall make regulations for the prevention of the registration of a child from an online game, lottery, or a bet. This particular bill also seeks to regulate matters to do with advertisement of gambling activities, where a person shall not, without the approval of the authority, promote the advertisement of a gambling activity on electronic media or any other forms of communication by holding himself out by advertisement, promotion, as well as notice and public placards without the aim of enticing members of the public to participate in gambling.
Senator Chimera, take your seat. Order members. Senator Mofire, take your seat, please. Senator Tabitha.
We are exactly 24, Chair.
Sorry.
Leader to approach the table.
Senator Aaron, please approach the table.
We just report progress to city.
Honorable members. Members, honorable members, we are unable to raise quorum for purposes of division. Confirm numbers. So,
All right. Then I think we'll let's proceed.
Honorable members, order. We now like to proceed with division on the conflict of interest bill, National Assembly bills, number 12 of 2023. We'll go for division. Sergeant at Arms, please lock the doors and draw the bar.
Senators to log out.
Honorable Senators, log out also from your delegates unit. And Sergeant at Arms, collect the cards which are not utilized from their delegate units.
Once standing orders, once Sergeant at Arms has confirmed order. So Senate to log in.
Members, you now may log back in. We are ready to go for divisions. Honorable Senators, I now put the question that clauses 6, 11, 20, 23, 27, 28, 29, 31, 31A, 31B, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 47, 49, the first schedule and the second schedule be deleted as proposed. Honorable members, start voting now. Senator Joe Nyutu, please approach the chair. Honorable Senators, we now go to the second question, clauses with amendments. And I put the question that clause 3, clause 5, clause 7, clause 13, clause 15, clause 19, clause 24, clause 27, clause 29, clause 30, clause 34, clause 39, clause 40, clause 41, clause 42, clause 44, 46, 50, 51, the third schedule, and clause 2 be amended as proposed.
So, Chairperson, they can vote now, but no, the senator should not vote for anyone who is not in the chamber.
Honorable members, proceed to vote now.
Yeah, but they should not vote for anyone who is not in the chamber. Senator Murkomen, please.
Proceed and do not vote for whoever is not in the chamber. Honorable members.
Senators to vote.
Members, please vote. Members, please vote. Just about to conclude voting. Senator Kisang, approach the chair.
Again, we will just cross his name. We will just cross his name. Senator Nyutu has voted. Voted, eh? So, let you the signing page. Angela, signing.
Senator Faki, approach the chair as well. Now, we are progressing to the next question, and I now put the question that clauses 3 as amended, 4, 5 as amended, clause 7 as amended, clause 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 as amended, clause 14, clause 15 as amended, Clause 16, Clause 17, Clause 18, Clause 19 as amended. Clause 21, Clause 22, Clause 23 as amended. Clause 25, Clause 26, Clause 29, Clause 30 as amended. Clause 39 as amended. Clause 40 as amended. Clause 41 as amended. Clause 42 as amended. Clause 43, Clause 44 as amended. Clause 45 and Clause 46 as amended. Clause 48 and Clause 50 as amended. Clause 51 as amended. The third schedule as amended. Clause 2 as amended. The title and Clause 1 be part of the bill. Honorable members, start voting now. Honorable members, kindly vote.
Couple of seconds left. Yes, sir. Gambling. It is.
Senator Tabitha Keroche. Senator Tabitha Keroche, approach the chair. Oh, and Senator Samson Kiprotich, approach the chair as well.
First question, second question, and third question.
Honorable members, these are the results of voting or division results. On the first question, these are clauses for deletion. The results are ayes 25, nays 0, abstentions 0. The ayes have it. On the second question, clauses with amendments, the ayes 25, nays 0, abstentions 0. The ayes have it. And lastly, on all clauses, the ayes 25, nays 0, abstentions 0. Honorable members, we are now reporting to the House. I'd like to ask the Majority Leader to move.
Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Leader of Majority, Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the Senate on its consideration of the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Statutory, it's at second reading. Yes. We'll have to go back. Yes.
Honorable members, I now put a question that the committee do report to the Senate its consideration of the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Where's the bill? Deputy Speaker, Honorable Senators, Mr. Speaker. To remain in the House.
Honorable Senators, just a minute, just hold on. Honorable Senators, have your seats. Let us conclude this business nicely. So we are reporting on the bill by the Committee of the Whole on the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole has considered the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023, and seeks leave to sit again tomorrow.
As a mover.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move. Sorry. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee on the said report. Did he read?
When did you say tomorrow? Please, the Chairperson, repeat.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I want to take it again. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole has considered the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Okay, mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee on the said report.
Seconder.
I request Senator Chimera to second.
Where is Senator Chimera? Okay, Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the House do agree with the committee in the Senate report. I put the question that the House do agree with the committee in the Senate report. As many as of those similar opinion say aye. Aye. As those of contrary opinion say nay. There is have it. Mover. Senator Kisumu.
I second, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 for 2023 now land at that time. I propose the question that the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 for 2023 be now read at that time. We go to division. Let's proceed to vote. Senator Kavidu, approach the table. You are cruising from Abandea to Mount Kenya. Yeah, like And honorable senators, just have your seats. This is the results of the division. Ayes 25, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the management and regulation of conflict of interest and for connected purposes.
Next order, we go now to order number 8.
Order number 8, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 2 of 2023, second reading division.
Honorable senators, let me propose the question, then we vote. Let me put the question. Honorable senators, Senator Medu, today you are very restless. What is the problem? I put the question that the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 2 of 2023, be read a second time. Let's proceed and vote. Okay, honorable senators, this is results of the division on statutory instruments. Ayes 26, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Statutory Instruments Act.
Thank you. You can now open the doors and withdraw the bar.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so honorable senators, we are now on order number 13. Business appearing as order number 9 has been defined. So we are on order number 13. Next order, kindly.
Order number 13, the Meteorology Bill, Senate Bills number 45 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Senator Mugatana.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I was just beginning to second this bill when the time ran out. But, Mr. Speaker, this bill is very critical for purposes of managing the weather conditions in this country. Mr. Speaker, previously, the Meteorology Department has just been a department within a ministry. They have had constraints of budget. They have had issues with management of their funds, so that, Mr. Speaker, a technical ministry, a technical department like the Meteorology Department, Mr. Speaker, was unable even to purchase important equipment, Mr. Speaker, that is necessary for purposes of doing the scientific things that they need to do so that we can have accurate assessment of the weather and reporting to the citizens of this republic. Mr. Speaker, what this bill is seeking to do is to create an authority that will be semi-independent. This authority, Mr. Speaker, will have power to determine its own budget. It will have ability to source funding. It will be able to collaborate, Mr. Speaker, with similar organizations all over the world. And, Mr. Speaker, it will be able to also partner with similar organizations all over the world. Mr. Speaker, these kinds of partnerships become very difficult to happen when you are within a ministry, when you are a department within a ministry. But when, Mr. Speaker, we establish an authority, the meteorological authority, as we want to do now, then, Mr. Speaker, we are able to enable this authority to reach its full potential. Mr. Speaker, previously, the issues of climate change were not a central global agenda. So it was okay to put the meteorology as a simple department within a ministry. But, Mr. Speaker, the issues of climate change have become now a major global agenda. And, Mr. Speaker, it will be sad that right now, Mr. Speaker, Kenya, through the President, we are heading the Africa climate change effort that is done through the heads of states in the African Union. And, Mr. Speaker, our President has been on the forefront pushing the climate change agenda. And so it is incumbent upon us also to do what we can from behind. When, Mr. Speaker, we set up the meteorological authority, Mr. Speaker, that will be able to attract funding, Mr. Speaker, that will be able to enter into global partnerships, then, Mr. Speaker, we are heading on the right directions towards the climate change response. Mr. Speaker, meteorology is a science that requires a lot of research. When you look at the specialists who are employed in the department, in the ministry, Mr. Speaker, we are not able to attract the kind of personnel that is required. Why? Because the remuneration that is given to all the staffers, it is in keeping with the terms and conditions that are within ministries. And Mr. Speaker, some of the knowledgeable people that are required are highly trained personnel. Mr. Speaker, if we are an organization, we create an independent organization, then that organization will be able to attract other forms of remuneration, other forms of compensation for highly trained personnel that will be attracted to work in this Kenya Meteorological Service Authority that we are creating through this bill. Mr. Speaker, if this authority becomes a reality, the government of Kenya will have a central place where we can invest seriously on research. Mr. Speaker, issues to do with weather are highly advanced and highly regulated in more advanced economies. In fact, in those economies, Mr. Speaker, the kind of specialization is so high. Why? Because some of these countries depend on the weather, actually, even for their economy to function. So accuracy around predictability of how the weather will look like actually determine the productivity of those countries. Mr. Speaker, because of the kind of shifts, the kind of changes that have taken place within the environment we live in, the weather and the climate that we live in now, it is necessary, Mr. Speaker, whether we like it or not, to adapt to the new reality. And the new reality is that we have very, very different weather patterns that are emerging. And Mr. Speaker, because these weather patterns are different, we need a new strategy to deal with them. We need new research to deal with them. As it is constituted, the Meteorological Department cannot handle the new changes that are coming with the new climate realities that we live in these years. So, Mr. Speaker, setting up this organization will be able to attract the kind of research knowledge, the kind of research investment that is required for us to be successful in moving this Kenya society to another level. Mr. Speaker, the issues of predicting climate and the issues of climate change preparedness are also going to be tackled under this new authority. And Mr. Speaker, these things are real for us, people who come from highly climate affected areas like Tana River County, Mr. Speaker. We will need more accurate predictions of weather patterns so that, Mr. Speaker, we are able to also be prepared if it is predicted that maybe we are going to have long rains, if it is predicted accurately that you are going to have long dry spells. Mr. Speaker, the kind of information that will come from this new body will be more reliable. It will help the farmers who are doing their farming investment in Tana River County to be able to invest in accordance with the proper weather patterns. It will help the people who are doing livestock farming in Tana River County to be able to predict the weather patterns and invest accordingly. Mr. Speaker, sometimes we suffer very, very heavy losses because the weather, it goes for longer dry spells than anticipated, and then our cattle farmers who value their animals, they keep keeping them, hoping that it will rain. And if there's no proper predictions, what happens is we now have massive losses because the cows start falling off, then the goats, then the sheep. Why? Because people are living on hope. They are living on traditional ways of predicting whether it was going to rain or not. But, Mr. Speaker, if we have a proper meteorological prediction that will come with a proper investment in this sector, that will come with a proper legal framework that we are setting up here in the Senate, Mr. Speaker, the losses our livestock farmers suffer currently will be reduced because proper weather patterns will be predicted. And people will know it is time to sell so that we don't suffer losses. Mr. Speaker, even the farmers who are doing agriculture, they will know what kind of crops that we should go with, because maybe we need more climate adaptive kind of seeds for this particular season, because we have proper climate predictions from this society. Mr. Speaker, in short, I'm saying that we need to support this bill as Senate because we need to have a proper legal framework. We need to graduate the Meteorological Department from being a mere department, Mr. Speaker, to a Kenya Meteorological Society, so that, Mr. Speaker, that this authority now, a Kenya Meteorological Authority, will be able now to have proper investment from government and proper investment from partners, proper investment from donors. It will attract proper partnerships from Africa and outside Africa. And Mr. Speaker, will be also able to attract proper personnel, qualified people who can then give us fair predictions, more accurate predictions that will stave off any negative effects on the climate against our people. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge every member of the Senate who will speak to this bill, Mr. Speaker, to support what we are doing. What we are doing here, we are creating a new framework, a legal framework that will enable the Meteorology Department to transit into the Kenya Meteorological Authority that will be able then to attract all this support and function as an efficient authority and be able to attract the correct people. And Mr. Speaker, this will obviously over time translate into proper predictions, weather predictions, climate predictions that will help our farmers, both animal and agriculture farmers, who will be able then to get proper predictions, Mr. Speaker, and they will be able then to maximize on that information by making more profit from the activities they carry out. It will also stave off the losses that we currently suffer. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge all members to support this bill who will have an opportunity to speak to it. And, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chalgai Samson. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Meteorology Bill, Senate Bills number 45 of 2023 be now read a second time. Senator Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise in support of the Meteorology Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, the issue of climate change is now a reality. I remember in the last, I think when the Nairobi summit happened here in Kenya, in KICC, Mr. Speaker, there were Nairobi declaration that comes in force with the issues of climate change. I'm happy that the issue of meteorology is being given the necessary attention, considering, Mr. Speaker, sir, that in the past, they have only used circulars and policy directions from the ministry, line ministry. And you know aware that the issue of environment is dynamic. We have Environmental Management Coordination Act, the MCA Act. We had the Climate Change Act that was put in place, Mr. Speaker. And the reality of climate change is here with us. That's why now many countries, organizations are refocusing their energy to the dynamic changing climate change, and even talking about climate financing. Mr. Speaker, this decade has shown us that now the conversation of climate change is becoming a reality, unlike in the past, where we used to take weather, Mr. Speaker. The establishment and Kenyans, while we empathize and send our deepest condolences to many Kenyans who have lost their loved ones. I know as of a few days ago, more than 228 Kenyans have lost their lives since March this year, and 72 are still missing, as per the official records, Mr. Speaker. This comes at the wake of predictions of weather, Mr. Speaker. I know with the general information system, Mr. Speaker, nowadays you can use your gadget to predict the weather, Mr. Speaker, through your phone, especially with this either Android or iPhone, Mr. Speaker, to check the weather status. The accuracy of weather is very critical, especially like in Dubai, or other people say Dubai, Mr. Speaker. The other day they use prediction. And in fact, when you go to other modern countries with the advanced technology, their meteorological department predict that don't go out of the house today, even whenever there are heat waves like in America, like in India. So, Mr. Speaker, we need also Kenya Meteorological Department that has the necessary accuracy. Mr. Speaker, where I come from, by 15 March, we should be on planting season. But with the ever-changing dynamic weather, it has moved to April. But because we used to use traditional mechanisms, Mr. Speaker, we used to see seers. When I grew up, there were people like Ringis, Mr. Speaker, who would see and say there is no rain today or there is the other rain. So if the accuracy of traditional seers could see whether rain is there or not, I expect technology to be a bit higher, Mr. Speaker, so that in where I come from, we didn't need to depend on Ringis to know whether it is raining or not raining, Mr. Speaker. So the important in the country, they will have opportunity to present their budget estimates before the environmental committees or the line committees that has been formed in this country. And today, Mr. Speaker, we but I think when we have this in place, it will ensure, Mr. Speaker, and even assist my farmers, so that as they couple and struggle with the issue of planting, Mr. Speaker, they are able to ensure that they plant within the right time, Mr. Speaker. And you know also, we see when the cows are on heat, then it is mating season, then we know the weather has changed, Mr. Speaker. So, but I don't think it appears to human, it can be with the human beings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the management of authority, these are straightforward matters. The board is important, and I think it will allow the oversight and accountability when running these issues, Mr. Speaker. I think even the duties of the Director General, I think the bill, essentially, Mr. Speaker, tries to provide how the Kenya Meteorological Department shall be. And I'm happy that in Part 5, in my 5th action and the passing of Climate Change Act, we are getting more funds, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the President because last Friday, it was National Tree Planting Day. And I think the issue of green energy is another push. The question is, we must ask counties, even in Kakamega, we must ask counties to improve on their own source revenue so that they don't depend only on equitable shareable revenue that comes from Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, the soft underbelly in the success of devolution is corruption. What we should be demanding as a parliament, and this is my free advice, as I come to the tail end and to my submissions, Mr. Speaker, I want to advise the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, they are the one who appropriate finances to EACC through the State Department of Law and Chief Administrative of Justice. What National Assembly should be doing is to invite the EACC to tell us what are they doing about the fight against corruption in counties and other sectors, Mr. Speaker. I am aware, I saw in the news that EACC had recovered a property of over 3 billion. They are targeting to recover 7 billion. That is good. But we want to know who took this property so that we name and shame them. And they should be charged in the court of law, Mr. Speaker. So it is not enough telling us you have recovered through illicit money, through money that has not been quoted properly. The National Assembly, and I want to challenge the Justice Legal Affairs Committee of National Assembly, led by my brother, that let them, the best way they can assist us as counties, let them put pressure on EACC to fight corruption in counties. We saw the fertilizer scandal by the county government of Kakamega. We want to know who was implicated, Mr. Speaker, because as we fight the bigger cartels in Nairobi, we also fight the upcoming and growing and maturing cartels in counties, Mr. Speaker, through EACC, Mr. Speaker, and other organs. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to say to governors on this aspect of devolution, I hope, Mr. Speaker, and I want to request as we form this law, that let officers that will go to manage county offices be from Kenya Meteorological Department, that authority that we shall establish, Mr. Speaker. We don't want also governors to take advantage. I know we have a challenge of wage bill. You get a governor, there is a governor from Western Kenya, I think he's former. He used to have his VIP toilet being carried around. Mr. Speaker, he used to have a seat being carried around. I don't know, Senator, even Machakos. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, why would you carry a mobile toilet around unless you're having diarrhea or you're having stomachache? Why would you carry? And what is wrong, Mr. Speaker? Why are you carrying your seat? If you, Mr. Speaker, why don't you sit on a plastic chair? And the people who gave you, why would you carry your seat somewhere from, you take your seat from Kapsabet, like my governor, all the way to Tindred, around 50 kilometers. For what? Only to sit. Why don't you sit on a plastic chair or sit on anything that is there so that you show you are with the people, Mr. Speaker? Why would governors, and then you have a retinue of advisors, Mr. Speaker. One governor has over 10 advisors. What is he being advised about? Is it including advice on the issues of girlfriends, or what is the problem has been asserted by this? What are they advising on, Mr. Speaker? Are they advising, you had people are being advised by 10 advisors. Mr. Speaker, even Jesus Christ is the only counselor and wonderful guider, as is in Isaiah, in the book of Isaiah provided by it. And I know Senator Mahanzo is our caucus chair of National Prayer Breakfast, and will tell you the only counselor is Jesus Christ. Why is governor having 10 advisors? You know, I've never understood. On youth affairs, what do you want to know about youth? And you know you don't have employment. Why don't you put a budget on how youth can be empowered, how women can be empowered, Mr. Speaker? So as I want to say I support this bill. I look at the issue of research, if we can amend to include partnership with learning institutions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want also to send my condolences to you and the people of Bomet for one of our best, just 30 seconds, Mr. Speaker, for one of our best local secular artists, Sweet Star, for losing his beloved mother from in Bomet, Mr. Speaker. We are praying with you and take our condolences to him and the music fraternity in Bomet. You know, Bomet is the home of our local music, Mr. Speaker. I thank you and I support.
Thank you very much, Senator Chergey. I can confirm that your condolences will get to the bereaved family. Senator Manzo Daniel Kitonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the department dealing with weather is very, very important in the country. Meteorology department has been a big help to the country so far, but a lot of time the advice has not been given. I like what the leader of majority has done with this law, but there is a trend which is very common in the current government of setting up as many boards as possible. And I think this is a very big wage bill to the country, unless you have a serious justification. We must first of all know what is currently wrong with the meteorological department, and they've been doing very well. Are they not well funded? And if it is funded, and for example, for you to read weather properly, you must have specialized aircrafts which can fly very high above Kenya. And so that can be done in collaboration with the Air Force, and then take the necessary photographs, and the weather forecast is done. Weather forecast is not just done for Kenya. It is done for East Africa. It is done for the world. So it means you must have a system collaborating with the whole world. That system is the ministry dealing with the environment and weather. And so far, this department has been received very well in terms of devolution. Every county in this country, Mr. Speaker, has a CEC in charge of weather. They even have a director in charge of weather. And while they collaborate, they may not have the instruments, and they could have sufficient instruments to do with the local weather. But while they have, when they have a collaboration with the national department, they're able to get information shared to them. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you just get into your phone now, you'll be able to get any weather forecast in any place on Earth. The bigger challenge has been how you'll be able to predict what the weather will be, and especially when danger is likely to strike. The US uses that very well. You know when there are tornadoes, where they will be, where they will pass. And even as we expected a tornado in East Africa, although it had been forecast that it could come to Kenya, we will only be precautionary. It ended up in Tanzania and caused serious damage there. So climate change is real. But what's the best way of responding to climate change? Is it by just forming one more boards? And in fact, since this regime started, we've had close to 100 boards now be formed, be proposed in the National Assembly and in the Senate. While previously, there was a general regulation of, under the state corporations and something called Mongozo, that we should combine the efforts to as many smaller boards as possible, and that's why AFA was formed. And I think AFA has been very effective because there was a sugar board, a cotton board, every product a board, and all these people mismanaged cotton. Cotton board mismanaged the cotton, sugar board mismanaged the sugar. So we should be coming with smaller and a fewer boards in the country, and one board should be able to do as many functions as possible. So I don't think a board is necessary. What is necessary is to strengthen the Department of Meteorology in this country. It to strengthen the departments of meteorologists in the counties. And the weather can be read anywhere in the world, anytime, even just through your phone. Any place you Google, you'll be able to be told what the weather is. Meaning the whole world is up to date. And therefore, this law by the leader of majority, Mr. Aaron Cheriot, Senator, is totally unnecessary for now. Is another selfish way of creating employment for certain individuals, is another way of ballooning the wage bill, and they should be discouraged as much as possible, and especially by the state. And in fact, the next time I'll have an opportunity to address the president, I'll tell him about the many boards which have been formed in the country, which can only balloon the wage bill, and I'm sure you will agree with me. Now, when you look at what is happening currently and the change of weather, we plant trees. When we plant trees, we don't water them. And I think it's an exercise in futility. Before you plant a tree, you must know how you are going to water it in the next 3 months, or forecast the weather properly, to know that when you plant trees now in different parts of the country, then they will survive. Now, the trees we planted in Makueni, in dry weather, even when they are acclimatized to the area, they are not likely to survive unless there is a strategy to have them watered by school children or any other system in the next 3 months. So what we did, we just wasted a lot of public resources unnecessary. But now where you planted trees and there's going to be rain in the next 3 months, then you have succeeded. But you cannot plant trees at the tail end of the weather and at the tail end of the rain season. So I think this holiday for planting trees really should be rethought afresh and should be regionalized so that we all go. Although personally I plant trees throughout, and I plant trees which can grow in Makueni climatic conditions, and we have many people in Makueni planting trees, and in fact we are also planting fruits, mangoes and oranges every other time. And the climate which is appropriate, we plant avocados and we plant the macadamia. And in fact, I got a lot of trees, seedlings from the Minister of Agriculture and the ministry to Makueni, but it was coincidental with the voting of the minister to go home. And we were making a report here. Although it was a bribe, I said we will plant the trees, but we'll vote against the minister who has supplied fake fertilizer. So tree seedlings should not come to senators as a bribe and should be timed well by weather. And that's why this law should have been we have quite many laws on environment. It is one of them where we should be improved. And weather forecast should be done for many years. Mr. Speaker, I remember when there was a problem in Athi River, when a developer wanted to build houses on the Athi River bed, the necessary organs in the government were taken to court. NEMA was taken to court. And NEMA was told that's not riparian owner. Yet the wisdom of Jesus Christ say that you cannot build a house on the bottom of the river. You cannot build a house on the rock if you want it to survive during the rain season. So I warned through the television, through this floor, through the people I could meet, that the court is now wrong and the developer is wrong. And Mr. Speaker, because I've seen floods, that river not have a flood for 20 years as I come to Nairobi. Every 20 years, that river has serious floods. And it finally, although a stream flows, this time round it went over the trees, just like many years, 20 years ago, all the go downs around that area in the river were sunken in water. If we had a proper weather forecast, then the people, the developer would have been advised, we are sorry, these houses will go one day, and they were all swept, Mr. Speaker. People, children were woken up at night. Innocent Kenyans have bought these houses. Now a court order had been given. It is not clear how they will ever be compensated. But I suggest a constitutional suit will deliver to the people of Athi River who had been cheated to buy a house on the bedrock of a river. And there is also something called contributory negligence. They should have used their common sense and read that a river was trying to be diverted its course, and this land was riparian. Now, Mr. Speaker, the government is acting too late on all riparian lands. The late Mishuki would never have allowed, while dealing with the environment, a thing of that nature. The late Mishuki would never have allowed a law like this to be brought to Parliament. It is just creating employment, it is just ballooning, and it is totally of no consequence other than what the scientists are already doing in the country, which they are doing it very well under the Department of Meteorology, and who need to be improved. It is National Assembly who should be allocating more resources to them. It is the National Assembly, the universities should be coming with a stronger department, because now environment is becoming so serious in the world. Environmental law has been improved. We should be coming up with a law which protects the environment and will help us forecast the weather better, other than having a law which is not carefully thought, which is not carefully drafted, and it is simply bringing in, employ more people into already. So what then will you do? This
Order,
law,
Senator Halwale.
This law has not said, Mr. Speaker, this law has not said what will happen to the current existing department. Will the act which is dealing with that be repealed? And if so, how many acts of parliament will be repealed? Will they be split into two? Or what will happen, Mr. Speaker, because there is a law existing? So, Mr. Speaker, this is clearly over legislation, unnecessary, a waste of public resources, And Mr. Speaker, I don't support it. I urge other members, reasonable members of the society, to reject it, like Senator Governor Halwale, so that we can save Kenyans' funds and do the right thing. Let's do the right amendments to the right law to make it better and fund the Meteorological Department, which have served Kenyans very well so far. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I oppose.
Senator Tabitha Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill and really appreciate the majority leader for bringing this bill. One, let me start by giving my sincere condolences to all the families that have actually lost their beloved ones during this particular time. We've seen how the floods, the damage that it has caused, ranging from health sectors, the road infrastructure, the schools. There has been quite massive damage, and my sincere condolences to the families. Mr. Speaker, I've looked into this bill, and I feel that this bill comes in at a very critical time in our country. At times, we should go beyond looking at issues in a financial perspective all the time. We need to look at what brings us to the position that we are in, what makes us make the decisions that we make at that particular time, as much as there's always an cost implication, but the impact that then that decision will bring aboard is very important. Looking at this bill focuses, Mr. Speaker, on addressing very key fundamental issues as far as the weather forecast is concerned. And the issues that are going to be addressed, Mr. Speaker, are much long-term, you know. It's more on the provision of regulation, coordination, monitoring, management, and control of meteorological services. Mr. Speaker, the bill also focuses on having an authority called the Kenya Meteorological Service Authority, and which will be capable of different things like undertaking and performing all activities necessary for the proper performance of functions under this particular act that may lawfully be done or performed by anybody or corporate responsible for the provision of meteorological services in Kenya, among many other services that are going to be embarked on, Mr. Speaker. I listened to my colleague from Makueni, and it is only the negativity has, the disapproval has been much more on the financial implication, Mr. Speaker. We are at a time of climate change issues, more specific financials, the climate financials, and there's a lot of funding that comes aboard when it comes to matters climate change, Mr. Speaker. So there'll be actually, there is actually, because from the committee that I sit as the Vice Chair of Finance and Budget, we really allocate conditional funds mostly on matters climate change to different counties. So funding is already in place. What needs to be understood as far as this bill is concerned is much more on now the impact that the personnel will be able to bring aboard, so that we can be able to ensure when we have like the floods that we've been having, there are better ways and measures to be able to mitigate. More dams should be set and put in place, because a lot of this water should have been collected. From floods, Mr. Speaker, we note that as a country, we also experienced drought. But if we've been able to set dams aside, some of these climate changes, like during the time of drought, would be addressed when we have enough and adequate water that has been tapped. And this can be mitigated by the funds that will be set aside for this, or some of them that are already in place to be able to set aside or put dams that can be able to massively collect enough water, especially in the dry regions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, where I come from the eastern region, most precise Kitui, we have water issues. And this bill will be able to give priority to some of these regions that normally have drought issues, on how then more improvement in terms of the water catchment, so that it can be able to improve agriculture on these particular areas, which results to food security and also economic empowerment for our country, the region, as I've mentioned, among other regions in place, Mr. Speaker. I've noted the bill also has done a provision for digitalization. During the meteorological studies, then there can be information that is relayed to the members of the public, to Kenyans at large, digitally throughout, because if the system is digitalized, then there's prompt information, there's prompt awareness, there's also prompt ways of then, if this occurs, which are the rescue centers, how to where to seek assistance in the event that these issues do occur, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to note that 2 weeks ago, we had a conference with the Ministry of Treasury and asked the Committee of Finance and Budget and also the Caucus for Climate Change in Mombasa. And we were able to note that 2 counties, including my county of Nairobi and the county of Mombasa, have not been able to adhere to the basic conditions to be in the Department of Disaster Management. And the qualifications and the responsibility are not matching. And at times then that gives us a challenge, and the output cannot be much expected, or even if it's going to be there, it might not meet the standards that are required, that need to come with it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I do support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mutinda. Senator Muma.
Mr. Speaker, meteorological services are very important for any country as they are in Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, we have a department that deals with meteorological issues, and that department is not well resourced as at now. And in my view, the question we should be asking ourselves, what do we need to do in order to resource the meteorological department, give them the support required in terms of training, facilities, in order for them to carry out what they need to do? Mr. Speaker, I have read through this bill. The bill is largely about turning that directorate into an authority. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to bring to the attention of this House that in 2015, the Jubilee government of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and current President, then Deputy President William Samoei Ruto, established a task force under the leadership of Honorable Abdi Kadir. And the reason they set up that task force was for that task force to advise government on how to rationalize on the number of parastatals in this country. That was found to be necessary because, Mr. Speaker, as you know, with the 2010 Constitution, we came up with 47 counties. Key functions were devolved to the counties, and what we needed is a lean set of only key parastatals that would deliver on key mandates. Mr. Speaker, one of the other issues this task force was addressing was the fact that majority of the task forces that Kenya has depend on the exchequer. They don't make money, even though the assumption is that when you come up with a parastatal, it will operate more efficiently, it will save this country money, but most of our parastatal, Mr. Speaker, are parastatals that are costing the taxpayer more than they are assisting them. So even as I would support those who work in meteorology, and I would urge that as a country we need to invest more so that we can facilitate them to serve us better. Mr. Speaker, I am reluctant to support just the idea of a law to establish a parastatal. And that's what this law is doing. Beginning from clause 3, this law has the objective, apparently, of setting up this authority, but also implementing an international treaty that is relevant to Kenya. But when you read the clauses, it is preoccupied with setting up this authority. It has said little about the ratification and the obligations that Kenya has around the international treaty that it purports to be domesticating. So, Mr. Speaker, I would want, if those who work in the meteorology listen to me, that we urge the executive to give better budget to the Department of Meteorology, to urge the executive to invest more in research. Mr. Speaker, looking at the current budget, there is very little money that has been put in sectoral research to universities, to assist universities, for instance, to work in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, to work in partnership with the Ministry of Water, to work in partnership with Ministry of Health, to provide the necessary knowledge that would make us deliver better on the objectives of the government. So I would urge the majority leader that even as you're looking at this, I don't think you're helping the president. The president is increasing taxes. The Kenya Kwanza government is increasing taxes all along, and one of the things they're doing that is because purportedly we don't have enough funds to deliver on the services. You will not be able to deliver on the services when you are easily allowing the majority teams in parliament to manufacture parastatals. They'll only deplete the funds that we have. Mr. Speaker, I therefore wish to indicate that I would want the executive to invest more in the meteorological department, to give them better linkages, better equipment, to link them to open source resources, digital open sources for more collaboration internationally, and enable them to do work without creating yet another parastatal that is just going to deplete the funds, the meager funds that we have. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I say, support the idea of helping this department, but I do not support the idea of manufacturing yet another parastatal. I oppose, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Muma. Honorable Senators, there being no other member interested in further contributing to this bill, I call upon Senator Halwale to reply.
Jesus. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the Leader of the Majority, I'm privileged to make the following response. Mr. Speaker, I'm responding to the bill on the meteorology, which is here for the reasons that were moved by the Leader of the Majority. And I want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to thank all the members who have presented their presentations on the floor this afternoon. And Mr. Speaker, I have heard the sentiments from both sides, including the sentiments from the Senator for not Kitui, the Senator from Makueni, the distinguished Senator Maanzo, in his rejections. I want to confirm to the House that everything will be done to address the concerns by the Senator of Makueni to see if we can carry the bill along with the concerns that he has raised addressed. Mr. Speaker, like all speakers who have spoken, this is a very important bill, especially coming now when we are just in the midst of a crisis that arose from excessive rainfall. Mr. Speaker, we support this bill, and I want to urge members of the public that sometimes we should not challenge nature. Mr. Speaker, in the absence of heavy rain, people deliberately go and settle in the path of seasonal rivers. And Mr. Speaker, when the rivers come to go there through their usual path, they find people there, and people call that flooding. That is not flooding. The river is simply following its usual path. Why did you go there in the first place? I therefore want to appeal to Kenyans to avoid such a careless settlements and consider settling elsewhere. We have genuine cases like in Tana River. The floods that you see the Tana doing to the people of Tana River is not like what you see elsewhere, people deliberately going to settle in the path of the river. In cases of Tana River is where the river actually just breaks its banks, and that makes sense, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having said that, having said that, Mr. Speaker, I respond and I thank you.
Senator Boni.
I request that the putting of the question on this bill be deferred to a later date. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Boni. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 66, putting of the question is deferred to the next sitting of the House. I have granted your request to defer the putting of the question to the next sitting. Thank you. Senator Boni, just approach the chair. Honorable members. Honorable members, we will rearrange the order paper so that we deal with order number 12. Clerk, call order number 12.
Order number 12, the Public Transport Motorcycle Regulation Bill, Senate Bills number 38 of 2023, second reading.
Senator Boni, proceed to contribute. You were interrupted in your last contribution. You've got a balance of 59 minutes to contribute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I had just opened my mouth on this bill, and then my time was up. So allow me to repeat that I rise to move the public transport bill, which is also known as the Motorcycle Regulation Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill to pave way for an act of parliament to provide for the regulation of the boda industry and for connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important bill, and if it then becomes law, my belief is that it may be cited as a Public Transport Motorcycle Regulation Act. And Mr. Speaker, this act shall apply to all motorcycles used for commercial purposes, including transport services. For example, Mr. Speaker, what we ordinarily call boda being the two-wheeled bike, but which is motorized, and two, the tuk-tuk, which is three-wheeled and is motorized, and both of them can either be used for purposes of this bill as a means of transport for human beings and for carrying goods. Mr. Speaker, this bill is so important that one should highlight the fact that we are speaking to a very important industry. Mr. Speaker, the boda industry employs 1.5 million people in Kenya. 1.5 million people. And it is operating without a law. Two, it contributes 202 billion shillings to the economy every year. And it is operating without a law. This, Mr. Speaker, is way over what T from your region, Mr. Speaker, contributes. T contributes 147.3 billion shillings. And what's more, Mr. Speaker, in this industry, every day, 10,000 bodabodas crash. Sorry, not every day. In the year 2023, Mr. Speaker, 10,000 bodabodas were reported to have crashed. Therefore, confirming that we have to think through and provide the relevant legislation to make it safe, to make it profitable, to ensure that the industry is not abused. Mr. Speaker, I want to go to clause 4 and 5. This is the clause, Mr. Speaker, that is establishing the County Motorcycle Transport and Safety Board. What do I mean? I mean that this bill anticipates and contemplates a situation whereby in every county we are going to have a safety and transport board that will ensure that many of the things that we have spoken to in this bill are implemented at the county level. And Mr. Speaker, this board at the county level, I propose that it comprises a chairperson appointed by the county governor, the county executive committee member responsible for matters relating to transport. C, the county executive committee member responsible for matters relating to finance, the county attorney, the county police commander, or a representative designated in writing. F, 4 persons appointed by the county executive committee member responsible for matters relating to transport. And G, 2 persons appointed by the county executive committee member responsible for matters relating to transport to represent groups with special interests in the motorcycle transportation industry. Mr. Speaker, in clause 6, I hope to define clearly what are the functions of this board. And, Mr. Speaker, in a nutshell, the board shall be responsible for the regulation, management, and coordination of all matters relating to the motorcycle transport sector within the county. Mr. Speaker, without prejudice to the generality of the subsection 1 in this clause 6, the functions of the board I propose should include the following. 1, developing policies and regulations and guidelines on motorcycle transport and safety matters within the county. B, managing and controlling motorcycle transport services within the county, including registration and licensing of motorcycle riders, designate parking routes, parking and the routes that should be used for purposes of this particular business. Furthermore, it should be responsible for ensuring compliance with the provisions of the Act and any other laws related to the transport sector within the county the boda rider is operating from. It should also be a function of this board that they should conduct research and collect data on transport and safety matters within the county. And finally, developing and implementing programs to promote road safety, including training and education of riders and passengers. The issue of training both passengers and riders is a serious matter in this country. Many hospitals, Mr. Speaker, across the country have been forced to set up to designate a particular ward purely for boda accidents. When you go there, you find the unfortunate young people who sustained these injuries to be hanging there, either limb up or neck put in a plaster and all manner of things. This is where the law is going. Mr. Speaker, to organize the boda industry, we must provide for specification for registration of a motorcycle riders. And I propose that no person shall use a motorcycle for commercial purposes in the county unless that person is registered in accordance with this law. If a person wishes to operate a motorcycle, Mr. Speaker, I propose that if it is for commercial purposes in a county, that person should be registered by the board. And an application for registration, Mr. Speaker, shall be made to the board in a prescribed form and shall be accompanied by a prescribed fee. Mr. Speaker, the board shall issue thereafter a certificate of registration compliance to the applicant, and if it is satisfied that the motorcycle meets the requirements prescribed under this law. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the certificate of registration shall be renewed annually upon payment of a prescribed fee. I would like members of the boda industry to appreciate the fact that it is better to have a board for the boda industry in Kakamega as opposed to the one of Vihiga, Busia, Kitale, and Bungoma, which understands the economic dynamics of Kakamega and prescribes a fee that is reasonable to operators in Kakamega County. In this law, once you are recognized by one county, there is cross-border recognition so that you do not have to go to another county, get further registration. Once you are recognized in one county, then you can operate in the other. Meaning that if, for example, Nairobi being a city, the licensing for registration is more expensive than Kajiado, which is nearby, then a boda rider is free to go and register in Kajiado, and is free to ride into Nairobi because there'll be cross-border recognition. Mr. Speaker, in Clause 8, it is mainly the issue of cross-county recognition for registration, which I have explained. In Clause 9, Mr. Speaker, we have to appreciate that border industry is a business. And therefore, Clause 9 attempts to provide for how the border riders can make a saving either directly to the bank, but preferably join savings and cooperative societies, and the registration to join these societies has been provided for in this law to help the young people from being exploited by unscrupulous adults. Mr. Speaker, Clause 10 provides for the training of riders. That is straightforward, but just allow me to mention that a person shall not operate a motorcycle unless they have successfully completed a training course approved by the board. One of the reasons why many of our children either lose their lives or sustain grievous injuries in border riding, Mr. Speaker, is that the little boy, aged 17, is given a key. He's told this is how to start. He's shown on the handles how can change gears, and because this boy has been riding a bicycle, he knows how to balance two wheels. He's told move, and without any knowledge of the highway code, the boy then crashes shortly after takeoff. This will cure this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the board will therefore ensure that training courses authorized by driving schools include training on safe and defensive riding techniques, traffic laws and regulations, customer care and etiquette, and handling of emergency situations. Furthermore, the training will equip the riders with basic motorcycle maintenance skills and also train them on security awareness and precautions. And upon completion of the training course, a rider, Mr. Speaker, shall be provided with a certificate. Mr. Speaker, I hope to legislate in Clause 11 to provide for responsibilities to an owner of a motorbike. It should be appreciated that a very large percentage of the young people riding motorbikes for business purposes, they are not the owners of these machines. So this law is deliberately giving the owner who has employed the rider responsibilities, which include, Mr. Speaker, that every owner of a motorcycle operating for commercial purposes shall not cause or permit any person to ride their motorcycle unless such a person is the holder of a valid driving license or a valid professional license, a provisional license endorsed in respect of that class of cycles and a valid employment contract. Mr. Speaker, why this is important, that an owner must have an employment contract with the youth. It is usually very cozy and fine when business is booming. But as soon as the young rider then is involved in an accident, he's normally abandoned by the owner of the motorbike, and the boy will be there, stuck with bills. The relatives don't know what to do. The owner has disappeared into thin air, especially in instances whereby the owner had not registered the motorbike. 2, the owner must issue the rider with 2 helmets which comply with the standards established by the Kenya Bureau of Standards and are of the prescribed color. And 2, the owner must issue the rider with 2 reflective jackets which are of prescribed color. Why 2 in both cases? Because the bill is going to insist that it's a crime for you to ride a boda when you're not wearing a helmet and not donning a reflective jacket. It works. I remember clerk at the desk, Ruge. We recently had a tour of Kigali together, and it was impressive. There's order. Everybody is wearing a helmet. Everybody, including the passenger, everybody is wearing a reflective jacket. And when the traffic lights turn red, all the motor vehicles, including motorcycles, stop until it turns green. So this bill is going to inculcate into these young people that will be the order of the day. Mr. Speaker, we all live in Nairobi, especially one of the premier roads in Nairobi is the road that cuts between the National Parliament and the Senate chambers. On the other side, we have County Hall and Bunge Towers. That road, you'd be lucky if you're not crushed, because bodabodas come from either way without caring whether they are riding on the left or on the right. Mr. Speaker, having said that, we will also insist that a motorcycle owner should never ever ask a youth to ride a motorbike that is not insured. And if a youth is found to be riding a motorcycle which is not insured, the responsibility of breaking that law will not rest with the rider. It will rest with the owner. Why did you give the youth a motorcycle that is not insured? The rider should not be harassed. He should just give the address of the owner of the motorbike. He continues with his business, and the police look for the owner and they deal with him, Mr. Speaker. This law also gives responsibilities to riders, which include every rider must have a valid driving license issued by the authority, have a certificate of registration issued by the board, have a certificate and ensure that they shall not ride or carry person on a motorcycle without the prescribed protective gear as described above. And those gear should not just be carried on the arm as some of them do. The helmet should actually be fastened on the head. Mr. Speaker, every rider should not carry more than one person at a time. If you go to Malinya and you watch the behavior from Malinya to Kakamega, especially on a bullfighting day, Mr. Speaker, a boda rider normally carries up to 5 men. They are all going to enjoy bullfighting at Malinya Stadium. So they want to save. And 5 people sit on one motorbike. I usually sit and I cover my eyes because those are my strongest supporters, and yet they are doing something that is endangering their lives. I can't shout at them. I'll be chasing away my votes. But now I have an opportunity to regulate them, Mr. Speaker, so that they come to enjoy bullfighting. They arrive safe and they go back home safe. Every rider should ensure that passengers are carried on a proper seat with a footrest securely fastened on a motorcycle. and ensure that passengers sit astride the motorcycle. Astride. Mr. Speaker, especially in Kisumu. In Kisumu, when you go there, I have never understood. But the border riders, especially the ladies, don't like sitting on the motorbike astride. Instead, they sit across the motorbike. And when the motorbike now takes into full flight and it takes a corner, the motorcycle goes on and the woman then is thrown off. It should be completely unlawful. That is Mumas County. This is why she's laughing there unknowingly. It happens in Kisumu. Mr. Speaker, every rider should ensure that headlights of the motorcycle are on at all times when riding, and ensure that loads...
Senator Boni, there is intervention by Senator Mandago. What's your intervention, Senator?
Honorable Speaker, I just want to inform the Honorable Senator for Kakamega so that he doesn't wonder why the women in Kisumu suit like that. The women in Kisumu, Honorable Speaker, observe decency.
Senator Mandago. Senator Boni, proceed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the Senator for Shinkishu is right. But I was just reporting what I observed. So if what I observe is acceptable to the law enforcers and distinguished senators, you'll make a proper suggestion. But I find it extremely risky. Can you imagine when they do the curve like this and the lady was seated, she just goes that way. Then the motorbike proceeds. I don't know how it pleases Mandago, but there it is, Senator. The loads carried should not exceed 50 kilograms, and passengers are not carried. Loads exceeding 50 kilograms should not be carried at the same time with the passengers. Meaning, if your passenger has luggage, then the luggage you can carry the passenger with should not exceed 50 kilograms. However, members, you can suggest if you want to increase the number of riders on one motorbike or increase the weight that is carried by the passengers. And the passengers should keep the rider should keep the protective gear in a clean, dry, and generally wearable condition. You are in Rwanda and you just get impressed. You see some of the riders who are tech. They move with disposable paper towels, which they quickly put in the helmet and the passenger puts on so that the sweat of the previous rider does not affect the current one. Mr. Speaker, the rider should ensure that the rear number of plates are visible at all times, overtake on the right side, and not overtake in the same lane occupied by vehicles being overtaken. All of you in this house are drivers. Personally, one of the reasons why I never drive is because I fear the border drivers, because I wouldn't want to hit any one of them. They are so risky, they are so aggressive, because they have not been trained, they don't know that to overtake, you cannot overtake on the left side. So you are moving, and if you have not looked in your left-hand side mirror and you're taking your left turn, you find you've connected with a border. So they must be taught that they must forever overtake on the right side, but outside the lane. And they must observe traffic lights, especially in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and Nakuru, which are cities fitted with traffic lights. Borders must be reminded that forever they must observe traffic lights and observe all traffic rules and not park in undesignated areas. This is where we are going to ask governors to assist our borders to create designated areas for parking. The billions that we are giving governors can use this money to put sheds at designated areas so that the border business looks dignified, Mr. Speaker. And in the rules and regulations, we can introduce punishment for governors who fail to provide for these sheds at designated areas. And border riders should not ride a motorcycle unless that person has a valid driving license issued by the authority, and not ride a motorcycle unless that person has a valid certificate of registration with the County Motorcycle Registration Board. No rider, Mr. Speaker, of a motorcycle without properly wearing a seat belt or carry passengers who have not properly worn the seat belts. By seat belts, I mean now when we are referring to passengers being carried by tuk-tuks, they must have safety belts. Mr. Speaker, they should ensure that no motorcycle rider should use a lane split where other motorcycle vehicles are traveling at a speed exceeding 10 kilometers per hour or in public roads near junctions and interchanges.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Public Health Council of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024 SB 442, first reading.
Public Health Council of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024 SB 422, first reading.